Okay, thank you. The live stream has started, so the public hearing is now open. I'm Councillor Philip Davis. I'll be chairing this hearing of Subcommittee A of the Licensing and Public Protection Committee of Birmingham City Council. If we could all mute our microphones for the moment so we can preserve the sound quality, please, while I talk about procedure. And also, other than the committee members, if you could turn off your cameras, this will help with the bandwidth. Committee members will normally have their cameras switched on throughout the room. Again, I know you know the protocol now about mobile phones being off, etc., absence of distraction, so I won't bore you by repeating all those details. But it is important, obviously, that we can hear and communicate clearly. And so any distractions brought to attention could result in the meeting being suspended or to another date and time under the regulations for these types of meetings. This is a public meeting and is therefore being live streamed on the Council's website so that the general public can view it. Formal items of business are: 1, notice of recording webcast. I advise the meeting to note that this meeting will be webcast for live or subsequent broadcast via the Council's meeting YouTube site, and that members of the press and public may record and take photographs except where there are confidential or exempt items. Secondly, declarations of interest. Members are reminded they must declare all relevant pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests arising from any business to be discussed at this meeting. If a disclosable pecuniary interest is declared, a member must not speak or take part in the agenda item. Any declarations will be recorded of the meeting. Apologies and notification of nominee members. There are no substitutions, and minutes. I confirm and sign the minutes of the meeting held on 18th October 2021. So those are the formal items. On to the main item now. Main formal item. Can I welcome you to this hearing in respect of the licence for Cross Keys Banqueting and Catering, 81 Stewart Street, Spring Hill, Birmingham, B18 7AF. As I said, I am Councillor Philip Davis. I'm chairing the meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee today. With me are other members of the subcommittee, Councillors Martin Straker-Wells and Councillor Bob Beecham. Also present in the meeting are the Licensing Officer, Mr David Kennedy, Committee Manager Sophia Mirza, and the Committee Lawyer Joanne Swampillai. And if I move on to the parties, could I ask West Midlands Police to identify themselves? Mr Chris Jones.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair. Chris Jones, West Midlands Police Licence Officer.
Thank you very much. And again, the others making representations, licensing and enforcement, Gary Callaghan.
Gary Callaghan, Chair, Licensing Enforcement, representing Birmingham City Council.
Okay, and we understand the premises licence holder is not here today. That's Miss Sheena Davis Lawrence. So I don't see her on the list there, nor am I receiving any indication that she's here, but we can proceed in the absence of the licence holder. Could I ask those making representations at this stage if any of them wish to withdraw their representations?
Chair, no from West Midlands Police.
No from Birmingham City Council, Licensing Enforcement.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Again, I assume all parties have read and understood the licensing procedural rules sent out today's hearing, and I might at my discretion amend those rules to reflect the fact the meeting is taking online, but no such amendments will impact on the parties' right to a fair hearing. We're all familiar with the chat function. We'll be using that as a backup, particularly if we lose audio or whatever. And in the normal way, could we all now confirm we've got access to that by typing in our names? Just doing that now. So if we just put that in, that will assist the record. And we could then move on. Okay. I think we're probably all there now. Okay, thank you. And again, I won't bore you with the details because I know you're all familiar with the process in terms of using chat, and we've just confirmed access. So we'll keep the chat column open for the duration of the meeting. We don't have anybody dialed in on audio telephone, so I think we're all on Microsoft Teams. with the exception of committee members, if you could keep your cameras off unless you're the person speaking, this will assist any difficulties with bandwidth. I may, at my discretion, ask everyone to turn the cameras off in order that we can proceed with everyone able to hear and be heard. Okay, so we're on to preliminary points. Mr. Jones, do you have any preliminary points you want to make?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have a couple. Firstly, a request that the hearing is in private. Councillors, as you can appreciate, it is still an ongoing murder investigation. I've spoken to the investigating officers, and there are still outstanding suspects and arrests to be made in this serious incident. So it would be my first request that the hearing is heard in private.
Okay. I don't have obviously the premises license holder here to ask what their view is of that. So I think, but I'll ask Mr. Callahan. Mr. Callahan, do you object to having the hearing in private?
No, Chair.
Okay.
No,
Do we, colleagues, do we want to adjourn to discuss this? Or do you have a view about a simple yes or no about holding the meeting in private?
It's an ongoing investigation, so I can understand why it is that having it in private might be preferable.
Councillor Beecham? Oh, you're on mute, Councillor Beecham.
Oh, I am. I agree with that.
With holding it in private? Yeah.
Indeed, yes.
Okay. That is my view as well. So we are unanimous. So on that basis, I will now ask the committee clerk to turn off the live stream so that we can hold the meeting in private. I'll bring in Mr. Kennedy, the licensing officer.
Yes, sorry, Chair. I think the police are asking for their evidence to be presented in private. We can introduce the report in public, and all parties can have that, and then we go into private at that time. But I also think that Chris Jones has a few other preliminary points that he may want to raise. So.
All right, we'll go back to that. Thank you very much for that help, that assistance. Okay, Mr. Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, David. Councillors, just one other point, that we are in an agreed position with the premises, with how they can trade as a takeaway only, with various conditions and licensable hours, which was sent within my bundle that we did serve at the council last Wednesday.
We are aware of that development, if that helps. I haven't had, obviously, I haven't had the view of licensing enforcement on that. Okay, so I think the way we can proceed is, let me just check on the order of the evidence, because if we're hearing the police evidence in private, we can obviously hear Mr. Kennedy's report versus licensing officer. We could, and then we can hear the West Midlands, the police evidence in private. Any other preliminary points? Mr. Callahan, you got anything else?
No, Chair.
Okay. Okay, so we'll continue in public session for the moment until we reach the police evidence. Okay. Right, so now I can go to, procedure is that we'll now move to, we'll move first to Mr. David Kennedy, who will present the report, then the applicant will be able to present their case, except the applicant is not represented here today. Then next those making representations, sorry, I've got that wrong. The police are the applicant in this case. I meant the licence holder is not here today, so the police will be making the first presentation after the licensing officer. And next, any other persons making representations. So I'll go to Mr. Callahan after that for licensing enforcement. And again, can all parties speak slowly and clearly so that it's possible for officers to take notes ancillary to the recording that we've got today. And if it's, again, anybody else's turn to speak, please mute your microphone to assist bandwidth. Members of the committee will be able to ask questions at any time, but we'll try to do so at the conclusion of each presentation. And cross-examination, well, the matter I don't think arises again because of the absence of the premises licence holder. Okay, and if you're having any communications issues, please use the chat function. It may be necessary for the subcommittee to take legal advice. At my discretion, I may ask all parties to wait in this meeting while members and the relevant officers withdraw to take legal advice using a separate meeting within Microsoft Teams. We'll then return to this meeting. If at any time, this is outside police evidence, obviously, which will be heard in camera, but if any time the live stream being broadcast fails, I'll ask all of you to mute the microphones and we'll stop speaking until the live stream is restored. And again, if we go into private session, as we will be, the live stream will be paused. And then once the private session is over, we'll recommence the live stream. At the conclusion of the meeting, I'll invite all parties to make a brief closing submission. No decision will be taken until all the evidence has been heard. At the decision-making stage, the members and the relevant officers will withdraw from this meeting in order to determine the decision. We'll go into a separate Microsoft Teams meeting. And in the event that members need to clarify any point, we'll telephone the relevant parties. The members will then make their decision, and the notification of the decision of the subcommittee will be made within 5 working days to parties. Okay, that's process. So now what I'd like to do is move to Mr. David Kennedy's report as licensing officer. Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you, Chairman. On the 22nd of February 2022, Superintendent James Monroe applied for a review under Section 53A of the Licensing Act 2003, as amended by the Violent Crime Reduction Act 2006, of the premises licence granted to Ang UK Entertainments Promotion Limited in respect of Cross Keys Banqueting and Catering, 81 Stewart Street, Spring Hill, Birmingham, B18 7AF. The purpose of the report before the committee today is to consider the review application and to determine the matter. The application was accompanied by the required certificate, which are attached to Appendix 1. Within 48 hours of receipt of the application made under Section 53A, the licensing authority was required to consider whether it was appropriate to take interim steps pending determination of the review of the licence. Licensing Subcommittee C met on the 23rd of February to consider whether to take any interim steps and resolve that the designated premises supervisor be removed and that the premises licence be suspended pending today's review hearing. A copy of that decision is attached to Appendix 2. The review application was advertised by the licensing authority in accordance with the regulations. A representation has been received from Birmingham City Council's licensing enforcement team, which is attached to Appendix 3. A copy of the current premises licence is at Appendix 4 and site location plans are at Appendix 5. West Midlands Police have submitted an additional supporting evidence bundle which has been disclosed to members in advance of the hearing and published as pages 21 to 35 of the published agenda pack on the City Council website. In response to the supporting documents submitted by West Midlands Police, the licence holder's representative submitted an email on the Friday the 18th of March, which has been disclosed to members and also published on the website. When carrying out its licensing functions, a licensing authority must have regard to Birmingham City Council statement of licensing policy and the guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Act. The licensing authority's functions under the Act are to promote the 4 licensing objectives. The options available to the committee today are to modify the conditions of licence, exclude a licensable activity from the scope of the licence, remove the designated premises supervisor, suspend the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months, revoke the licence or take no action. In addition, the subcommittee will need to decide what action, if any, should be taken regarding the interim steps imposed on the 23rd of February. Thank you, Chair.
You're on mute,
From
Chair.
mute, Chair.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yes, thank you very much. So we now move on to Mr. Jones for West Midlands Police to make his presentation. So we will now need to go into private session. So can we please pause the live stream? I'll just wait live stream is resumed. So can I just say for those rejoining, if that's the case, this is Councillor Philip Davis chairing Subcommittee A, concerning the review of a licence for Cross Keys Banqueting and Catering, 81 Stewart Street, Spring Hill, Birmingham. We've just heard the police evidence in camera because of ongoing investigations following this serious incident there, but now we're back in the public domain, and we'll hear the presentation from Mr. Gary Callaghan of Licensing Enforcement. Mr. Callaghan.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I wish to support the police expedited review in respect to the premises. From a licensing enforcement viewpoint, the premises are expected to promote the Licensing Act 2000 objectives, namely in this instance to promote the prevention of crime and disorder and public safety. The police have stated that Cross Keys were trading after permitted hours, as Christopher Jones has just informed you, when a serious incident happened that resulted in a male suffering a fatal injuries. As you've heard from the police bundle, there was disorder at the premises. They were trading after the permitted hours. There was smoking at the premises. I would suggest that obviously people have probably been served drinks who've had a few too many as well. We've heard there was a street barbecue as well. It just seems a catalogue of breaches of conditions, to be fair, Chair, and I'd have serious concerns with the management of the premises. Obviously, you've heard at the interim steps hearing, they've removed the DPS. They wish to surrender the licence. Obviously, they put their hands up in effect to say, yeah, what was going on shouldn't be happening. And I fully support the police concerns raised. I would have an issue slightly with the suggestion that they have a takeaway only. I'm not sure that if the members have got the conditions for the current licence conditions on page 8 of 10. There is a condition stating the premises licence holder should ensure the consumption and preparation of alcohol and food to take place indoors only and not on the public highway. Like you say, the premises were having a street barbecue. It appears they've just shown a blatant disregard for the premises licence and the associated businesses in the area. You've heard about rubbish urinating on the streets, all the nuisance that comes with that premises. It just seems not acceptable, Chair and members. I'm not sure if you're aware that the premises licence, the current licence, was issued in August 2020, which will be in, obviously you're fully aware, in lockdown. So obviously the premises have probably been struggling for business and obviously trading after permitted hours, probably trying to get some cash flow into the business. But the dreadful results, like I say, a poor gentleman's lost his life at this venue going into the early hours of the morning. So I would have serious concerns regarding this licence, Chair.
Is your position, Mr. Callaghan, that you favour what? Then what would you suggest the committee did?
I know Chris Jones has said obviously that he's agreed conditions with the premises. So whether the members are also of that regard as well. Obviously, as long as you're happy, that's the case. I'm not sure.
I'm asking if you still favour revocation. I'm not saying what to do.
Yes, I do, Chair. Yes, revocation of the current licence. Yes. Okay,
that's clear. Okay, thank you for that. I'll go to Councillor Beecham. Have you got any questions, Councillor Beecham?
No, thank you. That's very clear to me.
Okay, Councillor Straker-Wells.
Thank you, Chair. Listening to the conditions that Mr. Jones went through, I presume the orders would be taken by phone. They would be delivered, but not outside the premises. They'd be delivered to people's homes, and therefore potential for congregating and gathering like this barbecue that you mentioned some time ago would not occur. Is it your view that I hear your view that it's not to be supported as a takeaway, but is it your view that there would still be potential for gathering and for breaching conditions, even as a takeaway? Am I right in hearing that from what you're saying?
Quite possibly. Due to the history of the premises and what's happened, you'd have to have concerns, I would have thought. And I'm sure the local other businesses in the area would have the similar concerns, to be fair, regarding rubbish and this, that and the other. I know what you're saying, it's a takeaway only and it'd be going off. Are the members aware where this premises is?
We do have a map, yeah.
It's like in a little side road off the main road, and it's tucked out the way. So whether that's contributed being run as a pub and a late night venue to these goings on, whether that, like you say, members, whether that'll totally change and the premises is rebranded as a takeaway and the conditions are sufficient. If you feel that's the case, you know what I mean. Maybe you'd have to give them the opportunity. I don't know. I don't know how the other businesses in the area would feel with what's gone on.
Yes, I mean, thank you, Chair. The question in my mind, I can understand the problem that affects businesses during lockdown and the fact that they probably feel up against it. But the question in my mind is whether the conditions agreed with the police would act as a limiting factor in making sure that they complied with the licensing objectives on the grounds that the orders for the takeaway would not allow for gathering, the orders for the takeaway would not allow for other breaches. There would be no opportunity for people to be harmed or for there to be public nuisance because there would be no gathering. The question in my mind is whether, in fact, there's a possibility of breaches, and this is a highly speculative question in my mind, or whether, in fact, those conditions actually would govern the way in which the takeaway operates. Forgive me, I haven't asked that particularly well, but I don't know if you understand where I'm coming from.
To be fair, members, I'm in a similar position to yourself. There's no way of knowing 100% if that will be the case, is there? It's like the conditions are on the current licence. There's loads of conditions. Some of them were definitely not being complied with. So whether this new rebranding and the takeaway, whether they're going to comply with the conditions, it's $1 million question.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Callaghan.
Thank you for that. Okay, so that's your presentation then, Mr. Callaghan.
It is, Chair. Thank you.
Shortly, you'll get the chance to. In fact, next, actually, you'll get the chance to make to sum up if you want to make a statement. But moving on to closing submissions, as we don't have the premises licence holder here. When both parties who've made representations address us, can you address us on the interim steps, please? So, Mr. Callaghan, back to you for summing up.
Like I say, the interim steps hearing, like I say, they've removed the DPS, which was the right call. I'll be mindful. I'm quite happy if the police are happy that the conditions regarding this takeaway have been agreed. That's the way to go forward. And I've got no further points to make, to be fair.
Okay, thank you for that. Back to West Midlands Police. You don't need us to go into private session for this, do you?
No, Chair, but
okay, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for the offer. Councillors, we are in an agreed position, as I've said. As far as the interim steps go, we would ask you to keep the removal of the DPS on the premises licence. We would ask that the interim steps regarding the suspension of the licence is no longer required, and that you alter the interim steps for the agreed position with the conditions, licensable activity, and hours agreed. Councillors, West Midlands Police would invite you to agree this position only if you have confidence that the licensing objectives would be met and upheld. Councillors, we are in agreed position as West Midlands Police. as we think that the position would negate our concerns about the premises and the way it was operating as on sales. With going forward, if you are minded to do so, that they are only off sales only, and that nobody is allowed at the premises after 300 hours as one of the conditions.
Okay, thank you very much for that summing up. And as we don't have the licensed premises holder with us or representative, we'll now move on to make our decision. So I'll now thank the parties for your submissions today. Thank you very much for the information provided today. And I ask all parties to leave the MS Teams meeting, and the members, the committee lawyer and the committee manager will go into private session while the subcommittee makes its decision. You'll be notified of the decision of the subcommittee within 5 working days. Thank you very much. Okay, so